I don't know if you've picked this up yet, but I love video games. With video games, you get a sense of what the developers think would be entertaining to experience, whether it be something emotional, disturbing, or just endlessly fun. Naturally, it's very easy to put in something that achieves none of those things, as in actually a really crap idea, and it's these negative aspects of video games that I'm looking at today. Now before I start, let me say one really important thing. This is a very personal list about things that personally annoy me in video games, so it's more than likely that you're not going to agree with me. In fact, there's one entry on here that is very specific to something I experienced while gaming, so yeah. If there's something on here that you happen to like, wonderful, I will not have issues with it. With all that said, let's get underway. Back in the days when video games were still finding their feet, they mostly focused on gameplay over things like story. And that makes sense really, gamers back then didn't really know what to expect, and didn't really associate games with other media like TV and movies like we might do today. This meant that things like dialogue was kept to a minimum, and protagonists, as well as most other characters, stayed silent. Many years later, they're still silent. My main issue with this isn't the fact that a playable character is silent. In series like Mario and Zelda, the franchise has built itself with a silent protagonist, and to have Link go, "Well, this is a place called Farron Woods and there's a Goron, and Groose, why is your hair so stupid?" would be very surreal and kind of wrong experience. And hey, in Metroid Other M and most of the modern Sonic games, it would have probably been for the better if Samus and Sonic stayed silent. Especially Samus, because we all know how well that went. My problems with this are twofold. First, there's the fact that in modern games it's totally unnecessary. With newer franchises, story plays a bigger part, and so it doesn't really make much sense to keep the protagonist silent. People have argued that it works for immersion, but can you honestly say that games like Heavy Rain, Metal Gear, or hell, even Final Fantasy X are less immersive because their protagonists talk? Really, can you say that? However, the biggest problem is that it's absolutely everywhere. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Half-Life, Portal, Bioshock, Chrono Trigger, Grand Theft Auto, Suikoden, Doom, to just name a few. Please note, I like all these games. I just wish less games used the silent protagonist. It's not necessarily a bad trait, but it's used so often that it detracts from the character's personality and the game's story. I'm looking squarely at you, Gordon Freeman. If you've played any first-person shooter, you will have fired a wonderful thing called a gun. Guns work well in video games because they give you a direct way of killing the opponent, and from a fair range too. And hey, they're pretty effective, aren't they? Or maybe you just want to use a flamethrower. Okay, flamethrowers are a bit weird for me. On the one hand, they look awesome, and there's something ridiculously satisfying about running around and setting things on fire like a crazed pyromaniac. But on the other hand, they really lack the range that a conventional gun has, and when you're running up to an enemy, they're almost certain to do some sort of damage to you. And don't get me started on games where you can burn yourself with it, or where lighted enemies can hurt you. That's something very annoying. How I feel about the flamethrower in video games is summed up very well by the Pyro in Team Fortress 2. As a class, he's stupidly fun to play as, where you can just run around and light people on fire. Because why not? But considering how complex a game like Team Fortress 2 is, where all the classes have very complex and intricate strategies to them, the best for a pyro is really to just run at the opponent and try and burn them. When compared to guns, the flamethrower just seems a bit brainless. Video games aren't endless, or at least those that aren't Minecraft. This is just one of the cruel facts of life that you learn as you grow up. The vast world of Ocarina of Time only has so much to it. The beautiful world of Okami is only so big. Before long, you're gonna bump into an invisible wall. This is a problem that I have with games that I know has no solution. You have to have invisible walls to set the boundaries of how big your game is. Virtually no game can go on forever, and everything has to end somewhere. Even if it's a case of, ow, what the fuck? For me, it's a case of childhood me being hugely disappointed that this amazing game is finite. There's only so much to see. 7-year-old me doesn't understand that games have only so much data space. So when you get to the edge, you realise that this is the end. Until you buy the next game. But 7-year-old me has no concept of money. One of the realities of playing video games is that you're at the mercy of your technology. Multiplayer is a little bit different as you're playing against actual human opponents more often than not, but single player on some games has you playing against computers. Sometimes enemy AI in games can be fantastic, but then there's those times when it really isn't, when you want to stick sharp things in your eyes. Have you ever just stopped and looked at some of the enemies you're fighting? It's interesting just how many of them will do nothing to you, almost like they're some sort of unprovoked animal in the wild. Others will run into walls like in Crysis 2, or ignore your allies and only try and fight you like in quite a lot of Call of Duty games. Or maybe you want to play some Half-Life 2 where the AI is a special case. No, seriously, there's a lot of ways that you can break it, often with hilarious results. In addition, friendly AI has also been seen to be pretty terrible. Friendly AI usually crops up when you're fighting with a group or a companion, like games like Left 4 Dead, Halo and Resident Evil 5. And unfortunately, these games all have horrifying friendly AI. Maybe you're trying not to get yourself killed, but fuck that. Your allies will make sure that at least they themselves are killed, and maybe you if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe friendly AI like this is a clever marketing ploy by the developers. Don't like seeing Sheva waste all her ammo by shooting at a wall? Go get a friend to buy a copy and play with them instead. This next one can be summed up in one phrase.
So bored.
Bosses with a shit ton of HP. If you spend a couple of minutes on my channel, you'll know that I focus on bosses quite a lot, and that's because they're an integral part of the game. People will usually always remember the bosses in your game, and it's advisable that they remember them for the right reasons. Bosses with high HP seems like a fake difficulty. Rather than give your boss some clever strategy to defeat it, or just making it harder to do damage to it, bosses with high HP just kinda sit there and soak up damage. Now this is fine if the boss has multiple forms or does anything of any interest, but when you're sitting there spamming the same button over and over and over, you're gonna get bored very quickly. Dracul from Star Fox Adventures is a classic example of doing the same thing for the whole fight. Just spam the fire button and after a while, you'll win. The Cyber Demon from Doom though is a whole different story. It manages to combine intense difficulty with high HP to create a truly infamous boss that can kill you in one shot and take forever to defeat. But for me, the cake is well and truly taken, eaten and turned into a terrible meme by Yzmat from Final Fantasy XII. If you don't know already, this boss has 50 million HP. That isn't a typo on my script, he really does have 50 million HP. The technical term being a fuckload of health. So let's just work this one out. Yzmat has 50 million HP. The maximum amount of damage you can do per hit is 9,999 HP. But once Yzmat is down to half of his health, that figure drops to around 6,999. So that's 25 million, 9,999, over 6,000 hits.
Nobody said there'd be more!
Thanks Square Enix, that was totally necessary. Remember at the start of this video where I said there was an entry on this list that was very personal? Well, here we go. I hate it when video games are just really dark. Now on the face of it, this doesn't seem like such a terrible idea. Darkness, especially in things like weather, can add layers of atmosphere to a situation, and to be fair, darkness in moderation is perfectly okay with me. But I'm talking about the games that just seem to be dark all the way through. I've picked 3 games specifically that have sinister tones to them and are dark throughout, and I'm going to tell you why all 3 are a bad idea. These games are Epic Mickey, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and Shadow of the Colossus. I like all three of these games to some extent, but they can be infuriating to play due to certain lighting issues. In the summer, the room I play my games in becomes very bright, and this has a dramatic effect on what these games look like to play. When games are this dark, I can't see shit, and that's not even an understatement. I had a full rage quit on Shadow of the Colossus, probably my favourite of these three games, because I genuinely couldn't see a thing. The reason why this bugs me so much is because it's so unnecessary. Taking the examples of Super Paper Mario and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, these games are bright and colourful and manage to lull you into a false sense of security before they throw something disturbing in your face. Making a game with dark lighting doesn't work anywhere near as well as using unnerving game elements instead. I'd rather play a game that was implicitly disturbing than a game that had moody atmosphere. Except for horror games, they're a little bit different. If you've watched Egoraptor's sequelitis of Mega Man X, you'll know that he talks a lot about conveyance of ideas. The best video games manage to tell you how to play without technically telling you how to play, and by instead gradually putting you through environments where you can learn at your own pace. Alternatively, the game may sit you through a tutorial level or just remind you of the most mundane piece of information during the entire game. The difference between the two is that one is putting you in the game and one is taking you out. Guess which one's which? Now that video games are this super absorbent money sponge, they're being marketed to what many people would call the non-video game masses, i.e. people who wouldn't usually play video games. Therefore, in order to make sure the little darlings aren't overwhelmed with the apparent difficulty of their game, the developers have made sure that there's absolutely no chance of you not knowing how to play it. And this is fine, it's good for your consumers to understand what the hell is going on. But they make such a hash of it! This kind of bad conveyance is everywhere, but I want to isolate one example. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I've been putting off talking about this game for some time, and frankly, this is a bit of an occasion. Mark it on your calendar somewhere, the day that rabbidluigi talked about Skyward Sword. Of all the Zelda games I've played, no game has made me feel so angry and made me feel so overwhelmed with useless information. But anyone who's played Ocarina of Time, your companion Navi bombards you with apparently critical information. With Skyward Sword, your companion Fi is like 10 Navis, all talking at once, all telling you useless shit that is painfully obvious. She'll even tell you when you're low on life, and when your Wii remote is low on battery power. Quite simply, Skyward Sword doesn't know how to tell you about crap in the game, including the collectibles, where you're told what they're called every time you load the game up. I remember seeing a quote on a website, I can't really remember where, saying Skyward Sword tells you everything about everything, twice. And that pretty much sums up all video game handholding. Ice physics. Lots of people rag on water levels being the bane of all existence, but I have a bit of a soft spot for them. Yes, there are terrible examples, but there are some that I really enjoy. In all my experience of playing games, I haven't enjoyed an ice level where ice physics have been present. I don't know if you've gone outside when there's ice on the ground, but ice is quite slippery. As in, you'll try and walk on it, but you'll end up with your face becoming best friends with the ground. This applies to video games, but at least tenfold. Ice isn't just frozen water in video games, it's a miracle lubricant that has absolutely no friction. This forces you to relearn the physics of the game, and indeed how you actually play the game. Also, have you noticed that you're the only one struggling to stand up on the ice? Enemies have magic super spiked shoes that stop them from sliding around like a moron, which is frankly just unfair. Why should the game put you at such a disadvantage? Surely the challenge should come from level design or enemy design, rather than just reducing the traction and have you slide to your death. At least Super Mario Galaxy got it right. Fuck this shit! The reason why ice physics isn't any higher is because I haven't got the biggest problem with ice levels. They often have some really good music, and places like Phendrana Drifts from Metroid Prime are just breathtakingly pretty. But still, ice physics just piss me off. And here's Link. So, you're in a boss fight and you're doing really well. You've been at it for quite a while now, but it feels like you're near the end. The journey's been long, arduous, filled with hardship. Oh, you just died.
What the fuck?
Ha ha ha. Fuck you. The one-hit kill move is something that just irritates me. No matter how well you've been doing, no matter how good you are at the game, if you're hit by a one-hit kill move, you get killed. Obviously. I never like to feel totally helpless in a game, but this is one example where there's not a lot you can do to combat it. There are a few moves, quite a lot of them from the No More Heroes series, that they telegraph, keyword here being most. Fuck! But there are some, most of them being from RPGs, where you cannot see them coming, and when you're hit by them, there's not a lot you can do about it. The amount of times in Pokemon games where I've been doing fairly well in a battle, and then get hit by a one-hit KO move, you just stare at the screen and wonder, what the hell just happened? There's examples throughout gaming history. Pokemon, like I've already said, has about half a dozen of them, and while they have low accuracy, when it really matters, I always find myself dumbfounded after being hit by one. Interestingly enough, Team Fortress 2 has a whole bunch of them, but the two classes that have the most obvious example, the Sniper and the Spy, are solely based on this idea, so it's not so bad. My favourite, or least favourite I guess, is Pikmin 2 and the electricity. In the final battle with the Titan Dweevil, he has an attack that summons a load of electrical balls that connect with electricity. If you're caught in the middle of this with a lot of Pikmin, you're done. You're finished. It's fucking over, man! You may be able to see a recurring theme in this list. Darkness can make life very difficult for you and make you feel helpless to the environment around you, because you can't see very well. Ice physics makes you into a slippery dartboard and makes you feel helpless to enemies around you, because you can't move very well. One-hit kill moves can come out of nowhere and make all the effort you've put in worthless, because you can't defend yourself very well. Number 1 is the pinnacle of helplessness in games. Luck. Luck is a bitch, like the bitchiest bitch to have ever bitch. You know, that guy? Yeah, that guy. He likes luck, he believes in the lottery of life. I fucking hate that guy. Okay, let me structure this a bit better. Luck is an inevitable part of video games, it's everywhere. I got a little bit lucky in this boss fight because I jumped at the right time. That's fine, that's more like finding luck in a genuine gaming moment. I'm more talking about the moments that rely on luck. The minigames, the missions, the racing tracks, the parts of games that are based on luck and have absolutely nothing to do with skill. These are the banes of my life. Let me give you some examples. Mario Kart. Holy shit, Mario Kart! You're driving along without a care in the world. You're in first and you're in line to win the cup and finally unlock Diddy Kong. Because you love Diddy Kong like a brother. You've missed him. He was in Donkey Kong Country 2 and probably 1. And now he's in Mario Kart. You wanna play as Diddy Kong. But then boom! A computer player sticks a blue shell straight up your ass as you and your hopes and dreams explode in an azure fireball. There's very little you can do in this situation except for hope and pray that you can finish the course in time or that you've got a big enough lead. That's luck-based gameplay, but not as bad as it can be. Here's another one, the critical hit chance. Games that allow for a critical hit are just begging for luck to be used against you. Pokemon and Team Fortress 2 are some of the biggest and best examples for this, when your opponents will conveniently get a critical hit and blow you out of the water. At least in Team Fortress 2 you have to aim your shot, using skill and cunning, while in Pokemon you're totally reliant on the luck of accuracy. Anything lower than 100% accuracy, don't count on it, it'll let you down when you need it the most. But by far, the single worst example of this, and one of the most infuriating game experiences of all time, comes in the form of Mario Party. Mario Party isn't a game with luck-based gameplay, it's a luck-based game, and the whole game is based on luck. The number you roll, the space you land on, whether or not Bowser comes down and fucks you over, the endless number of roulettes, even a whole load of the minigames are made with luck in mind. Mario Party requires very little skill, and even so, that's only when in the minigames. Because the AIs are so cruel in Mario Party, they always seem to get the luck of the draw. and it makes overhauling the hard computers a tricky task to say the least. This has been rabbidluigi, and if you're one of those people who like luck-based gameplay and believe that it balances out the playing field, if you're that guy, you've made some bad decisions in your life.
Maybe your colleagues will send a man next time.